the KELOLAND Digital Desk. I'm meteorologist Scott Mundt, and this is Whether or Not. It's Thursday, January 8th. And coming up on today's show, we'll talk about some warmth that's returning as we get into Monday and Tuesday of next week. I looked at a couple of stats and put together a list of the top 5 warmest days that we've had for that date. So we'll get to that coming up in a bit. We know the warmth won't last forever. We are still trying to figure out when we start to see this colder than average air return and how long that may last. And then we'll talk about our snow chances. There's a chance to see some snow in northwestern Iowa today that I'll talk about in just a bit. But also tomorrow, maybe northeastern South Dakota could get a couple of bursts of snow. A couple of snow squalls will be in the forecast. And as that happens, you may get a heavier hit of some snow followed by some strong winds or with some strong winds. So we'll have to watch for that tomorrow. And that will show up mainly across northeastern South Dakota. So that's also in our outline for today. Here's Futurecast. Notice the rain showers trying to move across southeastern South Dakota, northwestern Iowa. During the afternoon, these will start to move in, and then they quickly switch over to snow. And you could see that into northwestern Iowa during the evening. Some of those will also fall across southwestern Minnesota, as well as maybe western South Dakota could see a couple of areas of some snows during the evening hours. And then these will quickly move to the east as we go through the overnight. Now, we can get some minor accumulations in northwestern Iowa, maybe an inch or two slushy, because temperatures will be in the low to maybe the middle 30s as the snow is falling during the evening hours. And then as we get into tomorrow, there's that snow chance, eastern, northeastern South Dakota. You see that during the afternoon at 3 o'clock, and these will be scattered in nature. Anywhere, we're just riding Interstate 29 or close to that, anywhere from Sisseton, Watertown, Brookings, maybe Madison. You could even throw in Sioux Falls during the late afternoon hours and early in the evening. That will be short-lived as well. That quickly moves to the east. And then for Saturday, we'll watch these winds on the increase again, much like what we'll have this morning. And I'll talk about that coming up too. But for the first half of the weekend, western South Dakota, we'll have to watch our snows. You see that on Futurecast across the west and southwest on Saturday. Minor accumulations. I don't have a snowfall forecast map put together, as it looks like our precipitation's looking rather limited. Our wind, now these winds have increased this morning, and they'll continue strong. Coming in from the north, and it looks like a lot of this with the stronger winds showing up eastern, south central to southeastern KELOLAND. So I'll zoom in a little more into those locations. As you do see some of these wind gusts over 40 miles per hour during the late morning hours. Some of these will continue into the afternoon as well. As we go through the early part of the afternoon and stop it here at 2 o'clock, still picking up on these strong winds. In fact, that area of brown you see from near Worthington to Sheldon, those could be wind gusts near 50 miles per hour or more. And they're coming in from the north. Now, keep in mind, as we get into this evening, 7 o'clock, showed you on Futurecast a little bit ago, that the rain in northwestern Iowa will start to see that switch over to snow, maybe become all snow by the evening hours. And then you throw in a strong northerly winds gust near 40 miles per hour. Yeah, it should not give you a pretty scene outside if we do have the snow combined with that strong northerly wind. So we'll follow that as we get into the late afternoon and early evening. And then as we get into this weekend, we'll watch the winds return. Maybe by Friday, western South Dakota, we could see some of those wind gusts near 30 miles per hour. And then for Saturday, we have wind gusts here near 30 or more, I should say, and more, in eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. That's Saturday afternoon. Now, that will help bring in some colder air. We are forecasting temperatures that will be colder. Saturday probably end up being the coldest day out of the next 7 days. And then it's when we get beyond days, is it 10, 11, we may start to see much colder air that will be on the way, and we'll have that information coming up a little bit later. Then it seems like our wind shouldn't be much of a problem for the second half of the weekend. For today, temperatures will reach the 30s and 40s for afternoon highs. We'll watch that rain chance in southeastern KELOLAND, switching to snow during the evening in northwestern Iowa. Tonight, temperatures will fall to the teens and 20s, so we'll be a little chilly. I think we've grown used to seeing these temperatures, upper 20s, low to middle 30s during the early morning hours. And then for tomorrow, temperatures will reach the 30s and 40s. We'll go with that mostly cloudy sky in eastern KELOLAND. Better chance for sunshine in central and western South Dakota. So coming up in the next segment, we'll talk more about this warmth coming for Monday and Tuesday. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. After a couple of days with temperatures a little cooler than what we've been experiencing, the heat will return Monday and Tuesday. Just how warm will it get? We know temperatures will be well above average. Will we get these numbers maybe to get close to records? Well, right now I would say no. You can see as we run through the 7-day forecast, we'll have temperatures in the middle to upper 40s Monday, Tuesday, and those are the days that I'll just highlight as we go through these 7 days. You see in Aberdeen, they may hit 48 on Monday, and then a little cooler Tuesday will bring in a chance for some precipitation. 50s return in central South Dakota Sunday. That continues into Monday, and western KELOLAND temperatures near 60 on Monday. Now, what I did here is I looked at the top 5 warmest days for Monday, Tuesday of what we have in the record books for Sioux Falls. And you see that the record's 58 on Monday from 87, and then on Tuesday it's 60 from 87. And you see on the bottom of the list there, I have the forecast highlighted, 47 for Monday, 45 on Tuesday. So we'll see how close we get to these numbers. I would not be surprised if those temperatures, our forecast numbers, do warm a little bit. You know, it comes down to what we've been saying, it seems like, since last month. A lot of this depends, of course, on cloud cover, fog, what the wind's doing if we're able to mix up this atmosphere. So as the days do get closer, of course, we'll have a better idea as to where these temperatures will go. But I would not be surprised if we do end up in the top 5 for warmest days Monday and or Tuesday of next week. And that was just a look at Sioux Falls. Well, coming up here in the next segment, we'll be joined by meteorologist Brian Karstens, and we'll talk a couple of things. We'll see if we could start with the return of this colder air as we go over the next couple of weeks, and also talk about our snow chances. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. Joining me now is meteorologist Brian Karstens. Sorry about yesterday.
Oh, don't be sorry.
Under the weather. Just
you gotta
terrible.
heal
Not
up.
myself at all.
Are you feeling a little better
Just,
today?
oh, my goodness. Oh, I don't want to say I'm not 100%. I still have it in my voice and a little sinus stuff going on. But my goodness, I slept a lot.
You were telling me that.
I wake up 2 o'clock and I, look at computer models, take notes. I was up for a half hour, and I did not write one thing down in my notebook.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh,
You
why,
knew.
why am I doing this to myself?
Yep.
Sent you the note, went back to bed, got out of bed about 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, oh, my goodness.
Yep.
And I still didn't feel right.
Yeah, and that's, it's one of those things, though. It's interesting. You and I probably think alike on that with, we try to do our jobs. We want to be here.
Right.
And I always hate to be gone when I'm sick, and I always fight that. But then it's like, no, you just got to
Well,
accept the facts, right?
The first word in the text was sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Not
I
feeling
wrote
well.
that back. I'm like, get well.
And then all day, I was kind of in and out. Still had a terrible headache, body aches at 6:30, 7 o'clock. I laid down again. Did not get up until 1:30 this morning. Night and day difference almost.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm going to work.
Yep. Felt better. And we're glad to have
Holy
you back.
cow.
So at least you didn't get laryngitis.
And it doesn't, no.
Like somebody over
yeah,
here.
yeah. I mean,
And then I
that
sound
happens
terrible, and I'm
too.
trying to talk on TV, and then
Right.
that's
And
one
it's-
thing in our job. You can, when you have laryngitis, I'm out of business.
And
can't
I
do
don't think I
anything.
get sick that often either. And it's just
No,
like-
you
and-
don't.
And it just hit me. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I tried to fight it for a couple of days, which was probably led up to this anyway.
Yeah, it is.
But
Well, hopefully those of you at home are staying well. I know a lot of people are dealing with this right now,
yeah.
though, these viruses and things. But as we hopefully yesterday, I know you didn't get a chance to get some fresh air outside. I was trying to advertise that during the show.
it looked good
outside.
from the inside for when I had my eyes open.
Yeah. Well, it was a pleasant day, but boy, we've changed things today. We've got wind, we've got colder weather, a little rain. We've talked about that. Now we're going to switch our attention to the big picture for the next, the extended forecast, we'll say. And this is the map that I showed yesterday. I want to give this as a starting point. First 7 days of the forecast, much above normal. A lot of this is weighted in. It accounts for some of yesterday's warmth, but it also looks at Monday, Tuesday. You've already addressed that. That's a big deal, right? We're going to see some.
How warm we get?
Oh, yeah. Big time warmth compared to normal. Now, let's move to the second set of days. So this is day 7 through the 14 range. And that colder signature over the Great Lakes is still interesting to me. And I think that as we process through next week and we get closer and closer to the middle of the month, very interested to see how the modeling starts handling this colder air, because it's not a question of if, it's really a question of when and how long and how cold it's going to be. So we are going to start to mix things up, and that's not a surprise if you've lived in the Northern Plains for most of your life. You know that's, we're not going to stay this warm, but we are going to see some effects. So I'll let you chime in on that, as you've got a couple other things here to add.
Yeah, let's go ahead and this kind of piggybacks on what you just said or showing. And as we do take a look at our temperature anomaly, again, where we do have these reds and oranges that's well above, when we get into this more charcoal color, well above average with these temperatures. And that may happen Monday, Tuesday. And, that's the days, those are the days that I highlighted earlier with our top 5 warmest temperatures for those dates, January 12th and January 13th. Okay, then what happens after that? Well, it looks like we will eventually cool, not right away. Okay, may have to wait until the 3rd week of January. So somewhere during that second half of the month, we will eventually start to see this colder air come in. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to a different machine, okay? Now, this is the latest run of what this here was showing. So I'm going back and forth. More or less, it is the same colors when you're looking at the temperature anomaly, what's above and what's below average. This is the latest run here from about the same time frame as I'm looking at it off camera. And you can see how it's keeping some of that cold a little bit farther to the north. So that's just, a 12-hour difference in the model data is showing us that the placement of this may end up being a state farther to the north. So you see the colder air trying to come into more so North Dakota than South Dakota as compared to what's going on here. So if this latest data that came in here, again, this is 12 hours old, this comes in, it looks like, the time frame of how long this cold air lasts, maybe it won't be so long.
That's the thing, too. I said, I brought up all those other questions, but yeah, the timeline, like the duration of the cold. Are we going to see like these really strong hits of cold and then it pulls back? We call that transient cold. Basically, the pattern really can't hold it. And that makes a big difference when you're talking about your heating bills. If you're really cold for a day or two versus 3 or 4 days, that's very tangible. That's something that we would really feel. So let's kind of keep the door open to this second half of the month, having some cold air intrusions. Northwest flow typically bleeds in. Some chances of snow. Usually you'll get your clippers. You'll get some wind with them. But, the amount of snow, we did pretty efficient. We were very efficient at that in December.
We were in southeastern South Dakota. Those snowfall amounts as compared to the season so far, still above average. But where is it?
Yeah.
Piles here and there.
All about gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so many people thought, we are shooing for a white Christmas.
Oh, yeah, I know. Remember that conversation?
And no. But here's the thing, too. We'll see, obviously, the effects of this and the pattern. The wind machine, too, comes up sometimes. I know that's a real sensitive subject for the Black Hills after such tremendous wind. Still, the effects of that is really something to hear about, all the trees and the tree damage. So not a good situation. So let's hope for the best. We can at least, I know we're going to get some windy days, but we don't need anything like that, do we?
No, we don't. But that's been the theme. When we get these cold air intrusions, yes, the wind comes along with it, just a matter how cold and how strong those winds get. That still needs to be answered as the days do get closer. Now, this is what we've been showing. It seems like, over the past couple of weeks, we might bring this model forecast up. And you can see how it does bring in some of that cold during just starting the second half of the month. Notice how it has a high of 12 degrees here for Sioux Falls. That's next Sunday, January 18th. But look, that doesn't last. See how quickly it rebounds to the middle 40s? Now, this is just one model's look at what may happen as we go over the next 2 weeks. Let's bring in the ensemble. Now, this takes in many members of the European, and it kind of averages it out. So what it does here, more or less, it shows us this trend. And what is that trend? Well, after having the warm days of Monday, Tuesday next week, that trend is for the colder air to come in. And then this is steady cold right here. And again, that starts next weekend, bringing in the cold air and just keeping it around. Temperatures in the teens and 20s, Brian. You've mentioned this during KELOLAND this morning, and it seems like it's something that we have to continue to mention. The climate average high is 27. That's the climate average high.
Yeah. So it's all relative. I know from where we've been to where we should be. One other little comment, too, if we have time, but as we look upon the maps and we look about our reasoning, I like to give a little thought to this, because we're not just regurgitating the model data. Well, I mean, we are to some extent. We're having a conversation about it. But behind the scenes, while you were talking, I was just looking up some of our what we call teleconnections. Okay. So those of you that really find meteorology interesting, and I know many of you that watch this program are interested in a little more of the details. So teleconnections get into the broader picture on a global scale. Okay, so we're looking at things that can push and prod different patterns that lead to certain outcomes. And when you're looking at cold air, one of the first things we look at, among many things, but the Arctic Oscillation, which is the AO. I got really familiar with this back in 2009. That was a crazy year. We had
2009.
Extremely low values of the AO, and we ended up with a blockbuster snow year that year. It was a very condensed winter, but it was really severe. The AO this morning,
do you have that up on yours?
I don't. I have it on this other machine. Maybe in the last block, I'll quickly throw it in. Negative. It's going way down here by the end of the 10-day forecast. Same thing on these other teleconnections I'm looking at. The EPO, which is the Pacific Ocean, the Eastern Pacific, the NAO. Now we're looking at the Atlantic, the North Atlantic Oscillation. Scientists, we look at this, and as you formulate ideas on the forecast, they're all pointing toward a pattern that should bring some cold here. How much? How long? All the other things. This will be a great show to keep watching the next few days.
Okay, so they're all pointing to the cold. Does snow come with it?
That's another layer to the conversation, Scott.
And that's something we'll talk about in the next segment. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. That's not the graphic that we usually start with, Brian, but this is what you were talking about before the break.
Yeah, this is the raw data that meteorologists, we look at things like this. And tomorrow we'll have a little more of a talk about this, because if you're interested in how cold brews, what causes these things in the big picture, we have to look at the world of teleconnections. So I'll tease that. Basically, the bottom line is when the bar graph, the numbers are below the zero threshold, that pushes cold on the continent of North America farther south. And the Arctic Oscillation is a measurement of that Arctic movement of air. Okay, so that's that. We'll tease that. We'll keep that for tomorrow. Let's focus on the short term. We've got a little slushy coating of snow for tonight, possible Sioux Falls southward. We'll say maybe northwest Iowa. So keep that in mind. And then one more note, a little bit more about tomorrow. Friday, do we get this little terminology of snow squalls to pick up? These little hits of snow. It's going to be in the 30s, Scott, but you know what? There's a little instability aloft because we've got some cold air coming in up above.
So you get a little bit more enhanced vertical lift.
Yep.
And then I kind of equate it to what we usually get maybe in the springtime with these pop-up thunderstorms that are driven by the sunshine. They don't last long. They're pulsing is what they're sometimes called, pulse thunderstorms. They'll pop up, do their thing, drop their heavy rain, and then they're done.
Yep. And in this case, you'll get little spots where snow can come up. The cloud features will look kind of pretty, kind of interesting out of the northwest. And then a gust of wind will come in, and then it'll be over with. And then do you end up getting any kind of a headline out of any of this? Maybe if that line shows up, that one from Sioux Falls up to maybe Sisseton, Ortonville, we'll see if that materializes late tomorrow afternoon. Not a bad day, though, still in the 30s, for this time of year.
It's above average.
Right.
So we'll continue that theme. It's above average, but you get these squalls to move through, you get some gusty winds. It just reminds you that it's still January.
Yep, absolutely. And so little interesting tidbits. We've seen these things before. That's why we can comment on them and make a little prediction there. But otherwise, Scott, then we get into a colder weekend, and then we'll see if next week or beyond brings any snow.
Yeah, this is for the next 2 weeks. Notice how it is trying to bring in some snows, especially for the hills of western South Dakota, and that would be typical. This eventually gets into that period where we are expecting colder temperatures, so we can get some upslope there for the hills of western South Dakota to help bring in their snow chances there, and boy, do they need it. They can really use it. That was the European model. Here's the American model, not as aggressive. Now, I did stop this. I should mention what you see there in northeastern South Dakota. That's coming in on Tuesday. That really doesn't match the forecast that we have going. Remember, Tuesday should still be a relatively warm day. But even as I hit the button again and go out for the next 2 weeks, I know it says Friday snow, but this is for the next 2 weeks. It's more or less hit or miss across the area. That does it for us on this latest edition of Weather. Have yourself a great day.